A millennium has passed since the day we made that fateful decision. I am no longer Carvin of Lisat. They call me Ambassador Echo, now a designation fitting for one who exists as both an echo of what was and a harbinger of what comes next. I record this testimony as a warning, perhaps, or simply as a chronicle of how desperation led us to embrace what we once feared most. Should you ever find yourself contemplating the sealing away of humanity again, remember this tale. Humans are not feared because they are evil. They are feared because they dare cross boundaries that the rest of us are too afraid to even approach. In the 44th millennium, the Galactic Alliance was on the brink of extinction. Our most advanced civilizations were falling silent, one by one, consumed by entities we came to call the Silencers, ancient beings that devoured sound will and technology with equal voracity. They did not communicate, negotiate, or show mercy. They simply absorbed, leaving behind empty shells where thriving worlds once existed. I was an ambassador from Lisat, a race of delicate telepaths known for our diplomatic prowess. My people prided themselves on sensing the subtlest emotional currents, on finding harmony where discord reigned. For 3 centuries, we had served as the mediators of the Alliance, resolving conflicts through empathic resonance rather than force. But the Silencers did not have emotions we could read or minds we could touch. They existed beyond our understanding, a void that consumed consciousness itself. The council chamber on Nexus Prime was somber that day when High Counselor Velthor called for the forbidden measure. I still remember how the light from the 3 suns cast prismatic patterns across the ancient marble floors, beauty persisting despite our impending doom. We have exhausted all diplomatic channels. Velthor's crystalline voice echoed through the chamber. Our military forces have been decimated. 17 systems have gone dark in the past solar cycle alone. My assistant Island gripped my arm. Her pink skin had paled to an ashen gray, her sensory tendrils quivering with shared dread from the assembly. The Pandora Protocol must be activated. Velthor continued, each syllable heavy with resignation. We must open the gateway to the Sol system. The chamber erupted in protest, a cacophony of 1,000 different species expressing horror in their native tongues. I felt my mind reel from the psychic backlash. Humans have been quarantined for a reason, shouted a Moravian delegate, his feathers bristling with indignation. They evolved beyond control, beyond humanity itself. They are more dangerous than the Silencers. Velthor raised a hand, silencing the assembly. I do not propose this lightly, but faced with extinction, we must consider even the most desperate measures. The human threat was legendary, almost mythological in our collective consciousness. 8 millennia ago, humanity had spread across the stars with unprecedented speed. Unlike other species, who evolved in careful balance with their environments, humans forced evolution itself to serve their needs. They merged with their technology, rewrote their genetic code, and transcended physical limitations without concerning themselves with consequences. The resulting catastrophe, what historians called the Transcendence War, nearly destroyed the early alliance. Humans were not malevolent exactly. They were something worse, unpredictable, and unbounded by the natural laws that constrained other sentient life. In the aftermath, Earth was sealed behind quantum barriers, humanity contained within its solar system, deemed too dangerous to exist alongside other civilizations. Ambassador Carven, Velthor's voice, pulled me from my thoughts. Your people have the strongest empathic abilities. You will lead the delegation to Earth. My heart froze. With respect, Counselor, if the stories about human evolution are true, my empathic abilities may be useless or worse, dangerous to me. Which is precisely why you must go, Velthor replied. If humans have indeed transcended as we fear, you might be the only one capable of establishing meaningful contact. 3 days later, our ship approached the quantum barrier surrounding Earth's solar system. The crew, a diverse group representing 6 Alliance species, moved with tense efficiency. None had ever expected to see Earth with their own eyes. "Approaching barrier perimeter," announced the Volari navigator, her luminescent skin pulsing with anxiety, transmitting Pandora codes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a seam appeared in space itself, a line of pure potential cutting through reality. The barrier was opening, not like a door but like a wound in the universe slowly healing in reverse. "By the cosmic mothers," whispered Eileen beside me. "It's actually working." As we passed through the barrier, something profound shifted in the very quality of space around us. Reality felt more flexible somehow. Colors seemed richer, sensations more intense. The laws of physics themselves felt less like immutable rules and more like guidelines. Earth came into view, and it was not what any of us expected. The blue-green planet of historical records had been transformed. A luminous mesh of energy surrounded the entire world, pulsing with patterns too complex to follow. The continents were visible beneath this mesh, but they too had changed geometric shapes, and fractal patterns covered the landmasses, suggesting extensive terraforming beyond anything in Alliance technology. "It's alive," I murmured, sensing something impossible. "The planet?" asked Eileen. "All of it," I replied, my empathic senses overwhelmed. The planet, the energy field, the space between, it's all part of a single conscious system. Our ship didn't so much land as it was embraced by this system. We found ourselves in a vast chamber that seemed to have grown specifically to receive us. The walls pulsed with light that responded to our movements, and the air itself seemed to carry currents of information. "Welcome, delegates of the long-forgotten Alliance." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating not just in our ears, but in our minds. A figure coalesced before us, humanoid, in basic shape, but composed of what appeared to be densely packed light filaments in constant motion. As I watched, the figure became more defined, taking on the appearance of what ancient humans might have looked like. Dark skin, sharp features, eyes that reflected starlight. "I am Ray Morgan, awakened of Earth. We have been expecting you." I stepped forward on trembling legs. "You knew we were coming." A sound like laughter, but deeper and more resonant than any biological creature could produce. "We have been monitoring the silencer's advance for centuries. We calculated an 89.7% probability that the Alliance would eventually seek our assistance." "How could you know about the silencers from behind the barrier?" demanded our security officer, a Brenneth with reinforced exoskeletal armor. Ray's form rippled almost like a shrug. "The barrier keeps us in, not information out. Humanity has evolved beyond physical constraints. Our consciousness extends through subspace channels your science has yet to discover." I tried to read Ray's emotional state, but encountered something unlike anything I'd experienced. Not a mind, but a collective consciousness, with billions of simultaneous thoughts, yet somehow unified in purpose. It was like trying to comprehend an ocean by examining a single drop of water. What have you become?" I asked. "We became what we always were destined to be," Ray replied. "We merged with our technology, integrated our biology with synthetic systems, and expanded our consciousness beyond individual limitations. Earth is not just our home, it is our body, our extended nervous system. We are one entity with billions of perspectives." "And you can help us against the silencers?" Eileen asked, hope edging into her voice. "Perhaps," said Ray. "But first, you must understand what you're asking for and what price victory will require." Over the following days, we established a diplomatic outpost on Earth, though "on" wasn't quite accurate. We were within Earth's extended consciousness, accommodated within spaces that seemed to form in response to our needs and thoughts. Meanwhile, Ray and other awakened humans communicated with us, explaining what humanity had become. They didn't speak with words anymore, but transmitted concepts directly through what they called the resonance network, an interlaced field of quantum entanglement that connected all human consciousness. I reported back to the Council through subspace channels, watching as Velthor's expression grew increasingly troubled. "They claim they can help?" I explained, but they have a condition: humanity must be permitted to reintegrate with the galactic community without restrictions. Absolutely not. Velthor's image flickered with the force of his objection. The quantum barrier remains in place for good reason. The last time humans were unleashed upon the galaxy, they nearly destroyed civilization itself. With respect, Counselor, I countered, the silencers will definitely destroy civilization if we do nothing. 17 more systems have gone dark since we arrived. And what guarantee do we have that humans won't finish what the silencers started? Velthor demanded. You've seen what they've become, something beyond natural evolution, beyond the cosmic order itself. I had no answer. The truth was, the more time I had spent among the humans, the more I felt myself changing. The intense environment of Earth was affecting all of us in the delegation. Eileen had developed a form of limited precognition, seeing seconds into the future, an adaptation to the time-dilated reality near human consciousness clusters. Our Volari navigator's bioluminescence had begun responding to thought patterns rather than just emotions. We were evolving simply by proximity to humanity, a terrifying confirmation of why they had been quarantined in the first place. Yet, and I was also beginning to understand them. Humans hadn't rejected the natural order. They had embraced a deeper truth about it. Evolution wasn't just a historical process, it was an ongoing imperative. They had merely accelerated what was inevitable for all sentient life. The silencers have breached the Arcturus perimeter, Ray informed me one day, as we stood on what appeared to be a clifftop overlooking an impossible ocean of swirling data. They will reach Earth within 17 days. They're following us, I realized with horror. We led them straight to you. Yes, Ray agreed simply. But that was always part of the calculation. You wanted them to come here. Eileen gasped. The silencers cannot be defeated conventionally, Ray explained. They exist partly outside normal space-time, which is why your weapons and barriers fail against them. To confront them, we must meet them where they truly exist at the level of pure consciousness. And how exactly do you propose to do that? I asked. Through what we call the consciousness collective, a unified mental state between compatible species that can directly interface with the silencer's awareness. Eileen stepped back. You're talking about merging minds across species. More than that, Ray said. We're talking about transcending the boundaries that separate individual consciousness, creating a new entity greater than the sum of its parts. I felt cold dread wash over me. You want us to become like you. Not exactly like us, Ray corrected. Something new. Something neither human, nor Lysat, nor any known species. The only entity capable of communicating with the silencers. I reported this conversation to the council, watching as Velthor's face contorted with outrage. This is precisely what we feared, he thundered. They wish to assimilate us to transform us in their image. Return to the Alliance immediately, Ambassador. We will find another way. But there was no other way, and deep down, I believed Velthor knew this. The silencers had already consumed half the known galaxy. Every weapon, every shield, every diplomatic overture had failed. That night, as I lay sleepless in my quarters, Ray appeared. You're afraid? He stated, not needing my empathic abilities to sense it. Of course I'm afraid, I replied. You're asking me to stop being Carvin to become something else entirely. I'm asking you to become more than Carvin, Ray corrected. Your people fear evolution because they mistake identity for stasis. But you are not the same Caravan who was born on Lysat, are you? You have changed with every experience, every relationship, every challenge. That's different, I argued. Natural growth is not the same as forcibly rewriting my essential nature. Isn't it? Ray countered. What is your essential nature, if not the pattern of connections that make up your consciousness? We're simply proposing to expand those connections. And what will happen to me, to my sense of self? Ray's form shimmered thoughtfully. You will be both more and less yourself. The boundaries of Carvin will blur, but the core patterns that define you will influence the greater whole. You will not disappear, you will expand. As we spoke, alerts blared throughout the outpost. Eileen rushed in, her eyes wide. "The silencers have accelerated," she cried. "They'll reach the solar system within hours, not days." Ray's form pulsed urgently. "We must begin the collective now, if we're to have any chance. Will you join us, Carvin? Will you help us save both our peoples?" In that moment, I faced the ultimate choice: remain Carvin of Lysot and watch as the silencers consumed every consciousness in the galaxy, or surrender my bounded identity to become something new, something with the power to resist extinction. "What must I do?" I asked. Ray led us to a vast chamber at Earth's core, a space that shouldn't have been possible within the physical constraints of a planet. Thousands of human awakened were already gathered, their light thread bodies forming complex geometric patterns. Other members of my delegation arrived looking terrified but determined. "The process is simple," Ray explained. "You need only consent with full awareness. Your consciousness will remain intact but expanded, connected to all others in the collective." "Will it hurt?" asked Eileen, her voice small but steady. "It will transform," Ray replied. "Pain is a response to physical damage. This is beyond physical." Above us, through some impossible viewing portal, we could see the silencers approaching. Not ships or beings, but vast regions of negation, areas where stars simply winked out, where light and matter ceased to exist. I thought of Velthor and the counsel of their warnings and fears. They weren't wrong to be afraid, but sometimes survival requires transformation. "I consent," I said and stepped forward. What followed cannot be adequately described in any language bound by linear time or individual perspective. My consciousness expanded exponentially, merging with Elan, with Ray, with thousands of humans, and the few dozen Alliance members brave enough to join. I was everywhere and everyone at once, experiencing the entirety of Earth's history, feeling the quantum fluctuations at the edge of the universe, perceiving reality through billions of simultaneous perspectives. Yet I remained somehow Carvin, a pattern within the greater pattern, a voice within the chorus. The collective rose from Earth like a tide of pure awareness. We met the silencers not in physical space, but in the realm of pure consciousness. And there we finally understood them. The silencers were not destroyers by nature. They were remnants of the universe's first consciousness beings who experienced existence as unity. Our individuated awareness, our separation into discrete minds, was anathema to them, a cosmic aberration they sought to correct by reabsorbing all consciousness back into primordial oneness. Through the collective, we transmitted not resistance, but recognition, a pure emotional signal that acknowledged their ancient perspective while asserting our right to evolved diversity. We showed them that unity could exist alongside multiplicity, that harmony didn't require the erasure of individual notes. For one eternal moment, everything hung in balance. Then, gradually, the silencers began to retreat, not in fear or defeat, but in something like reluctant acceptance. The collective had succeeded, but as promised, there was no returning to what we had been. When I emerged from the collective state, I was changed irrevocably. My Lysat body remained, but my consciousness had been rewritten at a fundamental level. I could perceive quantum states, communicate across vast distances without technology, and manipulate space-time through thought alone. Earth opened its barriers, and humanity rejoined the galactic community not as conquerors, but as guides. The Alliance, decimated by the silencers, but now free from their threat, had to rebuild from the ashes. Those of us who had joined the collective became bridges between old and new forms of consciousness. No longer fully Lysat human or any recognized species, we were living proof that evolution need not be feared. Velthor and the conservative elements of the Council never fully trusted us. Perhaps they were right to maintain their caution. Power such as ours could easily corrupt or destroy. But humanity had learned from its earlier mistakes. This time, they did not force their evolution upon others, but offered it as a choice. A millennium. Later, humans serve as the guardians of consciousness boundaries, the diplomats who negotiate between states of being, just as my people once negotiated between political entities. Earth has become a center of learning, where species from across the galaxy come to study the art of guided evolution. And I, Ambassador Echo, record this story as both warning and invitation. If you choose to remain as you are, we will respect that choice. But know that evolution continues whether you embrace it or resist it. Humanity was not feared because they were monsters. They were feared because they showed us our own potential, the terrifying freedom to become something more than what we were created to be. If one day humans are sealed away again, do not ask why. Ask instead what it is about unlimited potential that frightens you so deeply. For in that fear lies the boundary of who you are and who you might become. The choice, as always, remains yours.